Is France cheating? If France squatted two teams for the World Cup, would they meet in the final? While the world fixates on the glamour of starting 11s, France is proving that true dominance is measured by what sits on the bench. In their clinical dismissal of Colombia, Les Bleus revealed a terrifying reality for their rivals. The gap between their superstars and substitutes has vanished. This isn't just about depth, it is about a relentless, championship-winning DNA that makes France the undisputed benchmark for World Cup 2026. Tactical sophistication, the cold-blooded efficiency of Les Bleus. In the modern international arena, we often mistake dominance for relentless sprinting and heavy metal football, but Didier Deschamps is teaching a masterclass in the art of the energy conservation strategy. Watching France dismantle a resilient Colombia side wasn't about a showcase of flair, it was a clinical exercise in efficiency. By operating in third gear for the majority of the match, Les Bleus demonstrated why they are the ultimate marathon runners of tournament football. They aren't interested in winning the aesthetics battle if it costs them the physical war. This calculated economy of movement ensures that when the business end of a tournament arrives, France still has plenty of oxygen in the lungs and fire in the boots, while others are gasping for air. The most terrifying aspect of this French side is how they dictate the tempo without relying on a frantic high press. Instead of chasing the ball like shadows, they control the space like grandmasters on a chessboard. They invite the opposition into what feels like a comfortable rhythm, only to find that the exits have been quietly sealed. This spatial control is psychological warfare. It drains the opponent's spirit as they realize that despite having the ball, they are moving exactly where Deschamps wants them to. It is a suffocating blanket of tactical discipline that requires no unnecessary lung-bursting sprints, just elite positioning and a collective footballing IQ that is currently unmatched on the global stage. Patience is no longer a virtue for this team, it is a lethal weapon. France possesses the supreme confidence to wait for the inevitable structural collapse of their opponent. They don't force the opening, they simply exist until the opposition's concentration wavers. We saw it clearly as they weathered the early Colombian storm. There was no panic, only a serene wait for the moment the South Americans overextended. When that structural crack appeared, Les Bleus stuck with the predatory instinct of a cobra. This ability to punish mistakes with such cold-blooded precision after periods of apparent passivity is what makes them the most formidable force heading toward 2026.
The B-team paradox, elite standards beyond the starting 11. The hallmark of a true footballing dynasty is not just the brilliance of its superstars, but the terrifying consistency of its shadow squad. Against Colombia, Didier Deschamps didn't just rotate his tires, he proved that the French machine runs on an engine where every part is interchangeable. While household names like Mbappé and Tchouaméni watched from the dugout, the tactical blueprint remained unshakable. This systemic consistency is the crown jewel of Les Bleus. It reveals a culture where the philosophy is bigger than the individual. France does not rely on moments of isolated magic, they rely on a structural chokehold that persists regardless of who wears the shirt. The transitions were seamless, the defensive lines remained disciplined, and the game model functioned with a cold, mechanical efficiency that suggests the B team is merely a label, not a limitation. Central to this masterclass was the emergence of Désiré Doué, a talent who seems to have bypassed the traditional learning curve of international football. Doué's impact goes beyond his brace. It lies in his spatial intelligence and his ability to interpret the game at a veteran's pace. He isn't just a replacement, he is a provocation to the regular starters, proving that the next generation isn't just waiting for their turn, they are ready to seize it. When you pair Doué's clinical edge with the physical presence and positional awareness of Marcus Thuram, you witness a partnership that provides depth in every third of the pitch. Thuram's ability to punish defensive lapses with his aerial prowess, combined with Doué's crafty movement, creates a dual-threat system that most nations couldn't dream of assembling in their primary 11. This is why France looks so formidable heading into 2026. They have eliminated the drop-off in quality that usually haunts top-tier nations, ensuring that when the fatigue of a long tournament sets in, their second wave will be just as lethal as their first.
Comparative quality gaps, France versus the global contenders. Deconstructing Colombia's defeat offers a masterclass in the sheer disparity between continental excellence and global dominance. For over a year, Los Cafeteros had built a fortress of invincibility, arriving on the pitch with a resilience that had seen them go unbeaten against some of the world's best. However, as the final whistle echoed, the reality set in. South American grit is a formidable weapon, but it has its limits when faced with the cold, calculated efficiency of the French machine. Colombia did not play poorly, they simply encountered a ceiling they could not shatter. It is one thing to compete in a high-octane physical battle, but quite another to survive the structural suffocation that Didier Deschamps has perfected. We saw this most clearly in the isolation of Luis Diaz. Throughout the match, Diaz provided those trademark sparks of individual brilliance, flashes of lightning on the flank that reminded everyone why he is world-class. Yet against this French collective defense, those sparks never turned into a wildfire. Every time Diaz looked up, he was met not just by a marker, but by a layered system of coverage that rendered his solo efforts heroic yet ultimately futile. This is where the gap widens. While other nations rely on their talismans to drag them across the finish line, France possesses a collective intelligence that neutralizes such threats through positioning and patience. This leads us to the psychological edge that truly separates Les Bleus from the chasing pack, their unflinching composure under fluctuating match momentum. When Campaz managed to pull one back for Colombia, there was no panic in the French ranks, no frantic gesturing or loss of shape. Instead, they maintained an eerie calm, a psychological maturity that suggests they are playing a different game entirely. They understand that a long tournament like the World Cup is not won in a series of sprints, but in the ability to control the pulse of the game even when the rhythm changes.
Squad management and the Didier Deschamps blueprint. Didier Deschamps is operating on a different plane of existence right now, treating these FIFA days not as a mere obligation, but as a masterclass in high-stakes laboratory testing. The hallmark of a truly elite manager is the ability to trial raw talent without sacrificing the winning culture, and Deschamps has struck that balance to perfection. By benching his heavy hitters against a side as resilient as Colombia, he essentially threw his French players into the deep end, yet the tactical structure remained so rigid, so ingrained, that the collective performance never dipped. The introduction of Kylian Mbappé and Eduardo Camavinga in the second half wasn't just a tactical substitution, it was a psychological statement of intent. Deschamps utilizes these superstars as tactical closers, a luxury that must feel like a nightmare for any opposing manager. When the game was already tilting in France's favor, bringing on the world's most explosive forward serves to suffocate any lingering hope of a comeback. By limiting their minutes, Deschamps preserves their physical peak for the moments that truly matter, ensuring his primary weapons remain sharp for the grueling 7-game marathon of a World Cup. Looking ahead to 2026, this depth is the ultimate insurance policy against the inevitable physical demands of a long-form tournament. Injuries and fatigue often derail the most talented of squads, but France has built a machine where every component is interchangeable.
Strategic outlook for World Cup 2026: the power of 2-11s. As we turn our gaze toward the horizon of the 2026 World Cup, what we are witnessing from Didier Deschamps' side is not just a collection of talent, but a terrifying evolution in tournament management. The modern international landscape has long obsessed over aesthetic purity, yet France is masterfully pivoting toward a win-at-all-costs mentality. They have moved beyond the need to play the most beautiful football on the pitch. Instead, they have mastered the art of the clinical kill. The true genius of this French era lies in the quantification of their positional redundancy. While other nations pray for the fitness of their solitary superstars, France possesses the luxury of 2-11s that function with near-identical tactical DNA. When you can rest a Kylian Mbappé or a Thierry Hernandez and still dismantle a high-caliber opponent like Colombia, you aren't just rotating players, you are demoralizing the competition. This depth ensures that the drop-off in quality is non-existent, allowing Les Bleus to maintain a relentless physiological advantage over 7 or 8 matches. It is this specific ability to sustain peak performance through attrition that defines them as the favorites. They possess the most complete arsenal in world football because their Plan B is effectively a Plan A in any other jersey. In the high-stakes theater of 2026, where fatigue is the silent killer, France's terrifying depth makes them the ultimate benchmark of excellence.